So I just found out some really bad news presented by this Twitter Warplan Purple. I suggest people follow it. I don't know who's behind this Twitter, but it's a very entertaining person. The way it manages to win arguments against people from the left. It's very interesting. But today he tweets out Article 11 and Article 13 have passed. The UKIP-led coalition was firmly outvoted on most amendments that opposed, as well as those that passed. There is a roaring and sustained round of applause in the room. Hashtag save your internet has failed. So for people who forgot what Article 11 and Article 13 were about, let me refresh your memory. They completely removed fair use from the internet. This was dubbed as the law against memes from the European Union, because if I show a meme on my channel now, I'm violating copyright from the person that made the meme. No one is allowed to distribute it except the person who made it. Now, of course, this is not just about memes, but it's also about channels such as mine, where I often would show a news article and then comment around it. Apparently, I will not be able to do that anymore because I will be violating copyright. The only thing that I think I will be able to do anymore is to show my face and just talk, or maybe show a tweet from someone else. But that's pretty much about it. Like, I will not even be able to show CNN articles, or I don't even know if the Young Turks are going to be covered by the legislation or not. And this is actually one of the problems. Many people don't even know how this legislation is going to be enforced. Is it going to work retroactively? Will I have to delete every single video that I have made where I have shown newspapers and pieces of material like that in the past, so I don't get copyright striked? I hope YouTube at least will inform me about this. But as you can see, it's going to affect a lot of channels. So even people from America who aren't affected by this, if you're watching content from within the European Union, you will notice a drastic downgrade from independent content creators, as they will be unable to provide the same quality of work that you expected up until now. And this is not the worst of it. Hours before the vote on hashtag upload filters in hashtag copyright EU Commission publishes new proposal for upload filters against what they call terrorist content. They don't really explain what terrorist content is, but I highly doubt it's going to be used against fighting jihadis and whatnot. It's going to be used against fighting extremists, quote unquote, possibly people like Alex Jones. This time, all hosting providers must remove content in 1 hour, no matter how small. So you can obviously see why this is a little bit difficult. What it means that even if you have your own website, even if you have like anything with comment section, hell, even if you're in America and your website can be viewed in the European Union, you have to make sure that you filter the uploads. So the only way to do this is to either have an AI, which means spending millions of dollars on the technology, or you're going to have some sort of upload filter where everyone who posts gets their thread saved somewhere, and then you have a team of moderators that's going to approve those comments. And obviously this is going to favor companies like Google and giants who do have the money to purchase the AI in order to filter through the comments. Meanwhile, the little guy who just has a little website that he started, if he reaches, I don't know, 10,000 people and he's getting flooded with comments, he's going to have to spend a majority of his day just going from comment to comment. And even then, he is in the risk of having a comment approved that can be considered to have terrorist implications, which means that he might get in trouble with the European legislation. So as Julia Rida says, you have a website with a comment section that's reachable in the EU. Congratulations, the EU Commission proposes you have to be available 24/7 to remove terrorist content. Another gem from the new terrorism regulations: normally an obligation for general monitoring is illegal, but here we make an exception. Apparently fundamental rights protections are unnecessary. So this is like the only good thing about it, is that it violates human rights. So there might be a push against it, like the people could take this to the higher courts in order to say that this is incompatible. And it's actually incompatible with a lot of the constitutions from member nations within the European Union. There is no way of a hosting provider, including your private website, if it includes comment section, can comply with these obligations without upload filters. It's not limited to large platforms. The EU Commission has ignored 100% of the copyright discussion. Normally, new proposals become available in all EU languages within a few days, weeks. Right now, it seems to only be available in English. So, obviously, this is quite worrisome. We don't know what will happen. I understand Spain had a similar thing for news, and Google News just pulled out of Spain. So we don't know if the multi-billion giants are going to pull out of the EU until they fix their shit, because initially it would seem that it benefits Google in the short term, but in the long term, think about it, even with AI, you can still have a few of these terrorist comments escape the cracks, and if they manage to stay there for more than 1 hour, then obviously the company is going to get a fine. And this is not something that's profitable for these companies on the long term. The whole thing is interesting. Again, I will have to wait and see how it's going to be applied. The law is there, but we don't know if other member nation states are going to comply with it or not. The biggest thing that pisses me off about it is that this legislation completely changes the way free speech happens on the internet. And it wasn't even a political discussion within Romania about it. Like, I have seen absolutely nothing on the television about it. I have not gone to vote regarding it. So you have this super governmental organization that dictates to my nation about things that impact the average citizen, and the average citizen has no input on it. Any person that still advocates for the European Union at this point is a fucking moron. Like, honestly, this should be a wake-up call, so you can see that in the future, just like this, other rights can be taken away. And for the people who keep saying, oh, no, Trump should not do anything, oh, no, please, don't have government intervention. You're useful idiots for these people. You're absolutely useful idiots. The government has already intervened in the internet. The only thing you can hope is for the people with the opposite political ideology than the European Union to also intervene and hopefully tip the scales and try to equal the balance. Now, even though I'm in Romania, I still have to thank UKIP, a very small party in the United Kingdom, for at least trying to do something against it. I think they were the people leading the charge against these articles. And unfortunately, they failed, but it's not surprisingly because they're a very small party. Hopefully, in the future, maybe they are going to increase in numbers. Now, I don't think this is the end we see with these authoritarian measures. I think we're going to see more, and I'm quite worried about Britain issuing their ban on porn. So, I know this sounds ridiculous, but there is a legislation that's going to come at the end of the year in the United Kingdom, where if you want to watch porn online, you're going to have to purchase a porn pass from the government to prove that you're over 18 years old. Now, obviously, this is not about the porn. I don't think this is even the issue. The problem is how they're going to ban the AI they are going to use in order to ban people and the ISPs from showing pornographic material. So whatever system they design, whatever company the government is working with, I'm pretty sure that this is just a beta test that's going to then be used by other governments or maybe even the EU in order to restrain access from people on the internet. This is not some sci-fi shit that I'm pulling out of my ass. This is what China is doing. And considering that the European Union is hurting right now with Brexit and right-wing parties gaining elections in Italy, they probably want to stop that. They probably don't want to have any more populist and nationalist parties rising. And they notice that the way these parties flourish and the way the party manages to spread the message to people is through the internet. So by censoring the internet, they guarantee the safety of the European Union. And obviously they're not going to come out and flat out say, well, look, we're installing this in order to make sure that populist parties can't spread their message. No, of course not. They're going to say, well, we're installing this in order to protect you from terrorism. And I guarantee to you, like, even after these measures, you won't see the number of terrorist attacks going down. You won't see a change. And you know what? When you don't see that change, they're not going to remove this legislation. They're not going to back down. They're not going to say, oh, well, we goofed. Or maybe this legislation is not effective. No, you're going to see more of this shit. You're going to see more. The whole reason they brought all of these refugees into Europe is so that they have a reason to say, oh, well, now we need protection. Now we need... Well, I think the best protection is to make sure we elect more populist government.